Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order for the Brawley City Council and Successor Agency, the Brawley Community Redevelopment Agency. Agenda for regular City Council meeting Tuesday, March 3rd at 6 p.m. We can have roll call, please.
The minutes will reflect all council members present.
Thank you. The invocation by Pastor Ramon Arroyo of Overcomers of Christ Ministries.
Good evening, Mayor Nava and all the city council and everybody else. There's no mic, so I have to speak a little loud.
Yes.
I'm glad to be here tonight. I believe everybody saw the Prime Minister of Israel speak to our Congress, Capitol Hill. He said something that stayed with me, that I'd like to share briefly with you before I pray. He mentioned Esther, Queen Esther, and Purim, which is the feast that begins tomorrow night. And the whole story is about the blessing of God upon a nation, upon a people. And tonight I'd like to pray that blessing over the city council, over the people present, and over the city of Brawley. There's three blessings in the Feast of Purim. Number one, it's the invisible hand of God that works behind the scenes in our lives for our good. And I believe it also works behind the scenes of the city of Brawley. Number two, the second blessing is that our story gets turned around for good. No matter what negative things we're going through, no matter how difficult the politics are in the city or personally, the blessing of God will turn it around for our good. All things will work together for good. And number three, God uses anybody and everybody. Esther and Mordecai, these central figures in this story, they were nobodies. They were unknown. But God blessed them, and He used them to save a nation, to save a people. And I believe that the city of Brawley is like that. Small community, maybe not a lot of people know us, but God's hand is upon us, and God's blessing is on us. And I believe that God will use this small community to be a blessing to the valley, to our state, and even to the world. And He's using all of you right now. And I'm going to just pray this blessing and thank you for allowing me to say these words. Heavenly Father, I just thank you this evening for this city council meeting, Father God, that was ordained by you. And God, I just thank you for Purim, Lord, for the blessing of Purim. And I just declare that the blessing of Purim upon the city council members, Lord, your invisible hand is moving in their behalf. It's moving in behalf of the city of Brawley. Father, I also declare, Father God, that the turnaround, Father, our situation, whatever negative things are going on in Brawley or whatever negative circumstances are happening in the city council members' lives and everybody here, I believe that you're going to turn it around for their good and for our good. And finally, Father, I thank you for blessing us, for choosing this small community, so these people who are unknown to anybody else. But thank you for blessing us, and thank you for using us to be a blessing, Father, to the Imperial Valley, to the state of California, to the United States of America, even to the world. And one other thing I pray, Father, that you will continue to bless President Obama, that you will continue to help him, Lord, to govern our nation, that he would heed to the warning of Prime Minister of Israel, Father God, and that you will bless our nation abundantly. Keep protecting and providing for this great nation of ours, the United States of America. Father, I thank you for hearing our prayer, our cry, in the name of Jesus. And everybody say,
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Pastor.
Thank you.
Councilmember Couchman, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Couchman.
Pastor, before you leave,
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for that. You're welcome. Thank you, sir. You're welcome.
Good night.
Thank you, Pastor. next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? There's a motion to approve. There's a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is public appearances and comments. Not to exceed 4 minutes, this is the time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record. You're not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. Please direct your questions and comments to the city council. Is there anyone here who would like to make a public appearance or has a comment? You can please come up. Sir?
Is this the microphone?
That's the microphone.
Camera's right there.
Right?
Ryan Kelly, 448 Russell Road. I am here tonight to speak about the last time I was here. I thank you for processing the state of county, and I appreciate all of your assistance in making that a very nice event. But tonight I'm coming in regards to the scheduled workshop on March 18th in Sacramento. The State Water Resources Board has scheduled this workshop to take on the condition of the water transfer, subject to the state's obligation for solvency restoration. At this time, public comments can be given to the petition, and that can be submitted directly by email from individuals or agencies or groups to the State Water Resources Board on their county website, on the Imperial Irrigation District website. At the county fair, we have, ID has a booth, and the county, we have 3 or 4 booths. We're going to have them iPads where you can just type in your name and hit submit. We would like to get as many of those individual comments as possible, and then any agency, organization, community group that would like to make a comment. This has a significant impact on not just the immediate area of the Salton but the entire valley and Mexicali Valley. So if you can imagine that we already have the highest pediatric asthma incident rates at our local hospitals throughout the state, that we could see a huge increase of airborne particulate caused disease, and also the economic impact for our produce areas that are in a microclimate along the sea. This would affect the entire valley, and so we would like to have how it affects Brawley. The mayor attended an assembly of governments where we spoke to it and asked that each jurisdiction send in a comment letter of how it would impact, say, Brawley or Westmoreland, Boca. So I hope that by March 11th, your comment letter would be submitted, and any individual comments submitted as well. The QSA was a water transfer that took 300,000 acre feet from Imperial County and transferred 200,000 of that to San Diego County Water Authority and 100,000 acre feet to Coachella Valley Water Authority. Part of that agreement had mitigation waters, 100,000 acre feet that was created by fallowing in our valley. It goes into the sea and maintains the sea level. In 2017, that ends. And the 100,000 and the inflow to the sea will be less than 800,000 acre feet a year. That means that we will be seeing by 2027 60,000 acres of exposed beach. And that would be airborne particulate that gets into our air basin. So the state of California and the State Water Resources Board in 2003 took on the responsibility of restoration. That is the word, restoration, above $133 million. The $133 million came from the San Diego Water Authority, the Coachella Valley Water District, and the Imperial Irrigation District. That money is being spent right now. But when it is exhausted, the state of California is responsible, and there is no plan that has been adopted by the state or funded to address the restoration. So this is a call to action. Anyone, everyone, your friends, families, take advantage of having your comment known and in the record to the State Water Resources Board. And for our part, the County of Imperial and the Imperial Irrigation District will be making a joint presentation to the State Water Resources Board on the 18th. A full day, and anyone that is interested in obtaining more information, you can contact myself or the administration, the executive office at the county, or IAD. There are some contact names, Katie Turner from County Council and Joanna Smith from IAD, and they would be very helpful in providing you some of the background information. So that was my point.
Thank you for your comment, Supervisor Kelly. One item, I know it was discussed in that Assembly of Governments meeting that we had, but do you know if the letters of support or letters of comment are available, like a draft template are available on the IID website?
Right, they've been pushed out, and I believe that all the jurisdictions have received a template. In fact, I think there are multiple versions that are available. We did ask that if the organizations or jurisdictions would put their own impact onto it, that would be very helpful, but if not, at minimum, press send or put a stamp on it.
Supervisor Kelly, just clarification, you said March 18th?
March 18th is the workshop, March 11th is the deadline at noon to have
For
any of
the letters, but the actual appearance is March 18th?
9 a.m. March 18th in the EPA building in Sacramento.
Okay.
It's scheduled in a forum that holds or assembly that holds 160 people. And if enough people, they might move over to a larger venue.
Supervisor Kelly, again, I appreciate you coming down here and informing us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other public appearances or comments? Is there Yulita is on the agenda?
Yes.
Is there anybody else who is not on the agenda that would like to make a public appearance and comment? Come on up.
Where do I stand? Is this
Right there is fine.
Yes, my name is Mary Stager. I live at 1605 East Main Street or something, or code. I'm married to Ted Stager. He's the owner of Small Equipment Center. Thank you for seeing me this evening. There are just a couple of topics that I wanted to bring to light this evening. And I understand the amount of regulations and the amount of responsibilities and fiscal requirements that you have. However, as you go forward, I hope that maybe you can incorporate these concerns that I have. And I'm specifically talking about what I call the East Main Corridor, which is between Eastern and Best Road. And our property is located on, that would be the north side of the street. And just in summary, I'll tell you which ones they are. I can come back and talk to them about them a little bit more. One of them, and I think this topic has been brought up before, but it's the inefficient lack of lighting and on the street. And I know that that probably is something that's going to be a long process, but I did want to bring it to light only because we live there and we see what's going on. The second topic I wanted to bring to light was the speed limit. And the speed limit in that corridor area is 45 miles an hour. That is excessive in that 45 miles, but yet what we see and what we observe, there are people, I think, I don't have a monitor, but they're exceeding that. And what we also see is a lot of drag racing because there are no lights, there's no stop signs in that little corridor, but people like to use it to race back and forth. So it's a safety concern. There's no light, high traffic. So I don't know if there's a way that you folks might be able to go in and have it reevaluated. I know our city is growing, and there's a lot more pedestrian traffic through there, and we're just growing. And especially with the businesses that have gone in there, it's so hard for them to slow down when you have all these people coming up behind you trying to turn in and slowing down, especially a lot of the large RVs and the snowbirds that come in. So that's a concern. And then the other one is at our street on the north side. I know my neighbors, and I don't know about the other side of the street, but our mailboxes for our property are not in front of our building. They're across the street. So we have to cross the street to get our mail. And I didn't think that's no big deal. However, there was an incident where I needed to call, I don't know if it was the police department or the fire department to come in. And it took them a while because they were across the street. They were using, I guess, the mailbox as the location to try to find us. Although our address is on, on the building, they went across the street, and then it's in front of a house, and there's a long driveway, so they drove in the driveway and they went back behind the house trying to find us. And they said, well, this is kind of odd. So those are three issues that are a concern for that particular area. So I just was hoping that you might be able to add it to your list of considerations as you move forward with safety issues.
Ms. Steger, we
Yes.
appreciate your comments very much, and thank you for bringing them forward. So it's a lack of street lighting, the speed limit in the east side corridor, as you're referring to it, and the traffic and mail across the street, and the posting of that.
Right,
So,
right. And they're all primarily major safety concerns.
Sure.
So just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Thank you very much for your comments.
And just to let you know, I have brought them up to Rosanna. We've had a discussion and she's looking into it.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a public appearance or has a comment? Mr. Goyle?
Yes. My name is Jay Goyle and I live at 890 Fleming Avenue in Brawley. There is a 25-acre land right here. This is a corner of North and Palm Avenue. This is map here. This is the vacant land for years. And we do plan, actually we are offering or planning an RV and mobile home park. We have gone to several meetings with the city department, planning commission, and all the departments. And with their guidance, we submitted this plan, which has been rejected twice by the planning commission. And here what we are requesting is to get your comments, to learn what can we do to make this project happening, because planning commission is not giving any idea, any reasons what's happening here. I have sent you the drawing, or I put a drawing on your table. So this is just front end. Actually, this is one location which is on the north end, and this will be the clubhouse. So this is all some recreation area here. It's a conceptual solar panel also, so like green project here. This will be the retention basin here, which is a soccer field, baseball, basketball field, a lot of recreation. And this is the front entrance here. So again, I just seen you the package here. So just trying to learn from the city council, what can we do to make this project approved by the planning commission, or what we are doing incorrectly. So our project is being rejected without making any comments.
Well, Mr. Goyle, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I do understand that it has gone before the Planning Commission previously and it has been rejected, but if you can meet with our city manager, maybe she can provide a better sense of direction for you. I know she's attended the Planning Commission meetings, and so she has a little bit more background, but we certainly appreciate the information for us. I'm reviewing the plan, and normally we wouldn't engage in back and forth in public comment, but I do have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How many proposed RV locations and how many proposed mobile home locations are on your map?
The total is about 280, which is 91 mobile home and 189 RV. And one reason we believe for rejection is the bad experience city had with a couple of mobile home park in city. That may be the influential in making the decisions, but there is no comparison between that one and this one. That one is mainly the mobile home, this is mobile home and RV project. So if we don't keep our project clean, we would not get the visitors. So like about 2/3 of our spaces are for the RVs, which is for snowbirds. And if we cannot have our project clean, we'll never get those customers. So our project will be one very unique, very nice, clean, and I believe personally in enhancement of the project. Couple of locations I and my family, they were really dirt project, and we brought them to the life in like really nice facilities. So we are not trying to bring something like trashy. We are trying to bring some beauty in the city. And city manager and planning commission or planning director has done a great job.
And it's on River and North Palm, is that correct?
Mr. Brawley, at the planning commission, did they give you a reason why they rejected the plan?
No, that's the whole point. That was just rejected without giving any reason. No reason was given.
I may be able to provide some facts to support just the information being shared tonight, and I'll be brief. The project has gone before the Planning Commission on 2 occasions, but because Mr. Goyal is a seated Planning Commissioner, he actually isn't privy to the dialogue between the Commission and the applicant. Another member of his investment team was there and present. There were a number of concerns expressed as part of the hearing process, and we'd be happy to capture those in a document that's available to the council. There are appeal procedures, and I'll be happy to sit down with Mr. Goyal to walk him through what options are available to him.
If I can ask, is it possible, Rosanna, to get more information as far as how affordable it is, what it's going to cost? If this is just straight rental, is these mobile homes and trailers owned? I think that kind of information would be really important to us, well, to me anyway.
We can share with you the project description that's been submitted to date, and if there are other areas of detail that you wish to have. One of the areas specified by the commission was a desire to have a management plan and a lot more detail to the project description. So that might be an area that if there were an appeal heard that would eventually come to the council, the addition of that information might influence the outcome of a final decision.
I have one final question. With respect to it's gone before the Planning Commission on 2 occasions, it's been rejected. Is there a reason why it's been rejected and not set for a future decision if they were requesting additional information?
I think there was some frustration on the part of the Planning Commission that the comments weren't addressed in between the last rejection and the next submittal.
Okay, but they rejected it once, so they didn't give it the second opportunity at least.
Right, they didn't delay the decision, they simply rejected it based on the information.
Because there is expense in reposting that and going through the Planning Commission again, so that delays things.
Well, I can tell you, Mr. Ball, speaking for myself, I don't like to make decisions off of past experience. I think from what I've seen, the project looks okay. But I think we need that information to understand what's all involved and believe me, there's some people that this is the only thing that they can afford.
Yes, sir.
So sometimes, to give people ownership, this is basically what they need. So.
And it will bring a lot of snowbirds because there's hardly any place for snowbirds to park, and we visited multiple locations to see what the best we can get out of every store. Yes.
Mr. Coyle, well, thank you for your comments, and we appreciate you coming here to the City Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to make a public appearance or a comment?
Good evening. I'm Julie Cunningham, so I'm representing Pioneers Memorial Hospital. I'll only take a minute. I just wanted to extend to you an invitation. We're proud to announce the opening of Pioneers Health Center, so it's a new rural health clinic. It'll be located on the facility of the hospital, and essentially the intention here is to help service the primary care needs of our community. So we wanted to extend an invitation to you and the council staff. The ceremony will be next Thursday. It'll be at 5 o'clock. It should only last from 5 to 6:30 or so. So we'd love to have you there.
Cunningham, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a public appearance or a comment?
Jason Zara, Brawley Chamber of Commerce. First of all, I want to thank the mayor for coming out for our Good Morning Brawley Breakfast Mayor's Address on Friday, and the council and staff as well. If anyone missed it, was unfortunate enough to miss the presentation, it was a great job. It is available as a podcast on kxoradio.com. So anyone who missed the opportunity to hear the mayor, please go take advantage of that. Second thing I wanted to do is invite everyone out to the farmers market, February 14th. I think you all know the drill by now, but I have to say it every time, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to make a public appearance or comment? Any other public appearances?
Are you ready?
Seeing none, we'll go on to the next item on the agenda under public appearances. Item 2A, Unique Garza, founder president of Mothers and Men Against Gangs Coalition, regarding sponsorship of MAG Coalition Anti-Gang Awareness, Family Health and Outreach Fair to be held on March 28, 2015 at Imperial Valley College, starting at 7:30.
Yes, thank you for your time, and to all of our Brawley City Council and those that are present. What I wanted to do today is give everyone a broad overview of what MAG Coalition does, not just in Brawley, but also in the Imperial County. Because although we are Brawley natives, we have considered that not just Brawley needs MAG Coalition, but the whole county does. So we wanted to start doing these presentations and inviting the city councils and school boards to our event. So we're taking the first step in coming to our hometown and to our own Brawley City Council representatives. This is my husband, Martin Garza, which many of you have met. So he's here to be our support as well. Mothers and Men Against Gangs Coalition was founded in January 2013 after our son was murdered in El Centro by a gang member. We decided to do this in memory of our son and also take a proactive approach to what happened to us instead of reactive, and do something positive that would make his legacy move forward. That is our son, for those of you that have never met our son or have never heard of him. He was 17 years old, a Brawley High School student, and a product of Brawley schools and Brawley Parks and Rec. He played everything that he could at Parks and Rec Center. This is our family. And we used to always mention that our family was the all-American family. The teacher, the cheerleader, the football player, and the peace officer. And we grew up with this vision that this is what is the ideal. Although we know that that's unreal, we used to kind of, pick fun at ourselves going, oh, we look like that white picket fence family, that has all the components that we would see in movies and shows. And I just want to let you know that if this happened to an all-American family like ours, it can happen to anyone. Usually we overgeneralize and think that this can only happen to those that are involved in gangs. It can happen to anyone. It can happen to us, that we were doing everything right and raising our kids and doing, going forward and doing everything, by fighting the law and working and being professionals. So our mission and our vision is to raise awareness with crime victims, increase family and community unity, deter youth and their family from violence, which is something that, where do our kids learn it? They learn it at home. That's the first model. And then they learn it in our schools. Then they learn it in our streets. And eventually they act out many of these things. So what we want to do is create change for the betterment of our youth in memory of our son, Martin Garza. Our vision is to, in memory of him, to create a nonviolent community, heal victims of violent crimes, assist families to form stronger bonds, nurture community partnerships, gather data to educate the community, and empower everyone with the knowledge and strength and faith to combat violence. And this is very important. It's something that we have dedicated ourselves to do around the valley, not just in Brawley and not just in schools, but in our community. We participate monthly in our Brawley Farmers Market. We are part of the Chamber of Commerce, and we go to schools when we are invited to do presentations. We do as much as we can because we want to serve our community, and we want all of us to unite and change what is out there. This is our calendar events that we've kind of produced over the last 2 years. In January, we have a kickoff with our anniversary Peace Vigil and Smash Bro Bear Drive. Many of the council members have been present for these events, and I thank them for being there. This is our first Peace Vigil. This is our last one, and our Bear Drive, which was also part of the police department here. We gave our officers some small bears so that they can carry in their cruisers when they, patrol cars, when they go and, respond to a violent crime. They're able to calm the child down by just giving them a small token of small bear. And then they're able to do the reports and hopefully take care of what's going on. We also do a Letterman jacket program where we help kids earn their Letterman jackets. It's very expensive for us, even though we are working professionals, to pay for 2 Letterman jackets, which average cost is $300 to $400. So we decided to help all of these kids. A lot of them are from Brawley, to earn their Letterman jacket, and we have this program valley-wide. And anyone can participate as long as they're part of an Imperial County school. In March, we work on the fair booths in Imperial County Fairgrounds. Right now, we are there. We're supposed to be there right now, but we opted to be here to present to all of you. And these are some of the pictures from last year. In April, we have a sneaker ball for Crime Victims' Rights Week, and many of the council members also joined us there. You have been one of the strongest supporters, and I appreciate that. This is one of our pictures where all of us had our sneakers on, but we were dressed to the king. And this is our invite. We also hosted, because one of his classmates started a 5K 1 mile run the year that he passed. So we've kind of carried it over. And this year we've kind of decided to put both of them together, which is what we have submitted to you. And here's just a couple of pictures from the past events. June through August, we try to do as many community presentations to educate our public and also remind them that we don't want another empty chair at a graduation in June, like our sons. And we do Red Ribbon Week as well. So, September, we start off the Letterman jacket again and help these kids, get their jackets. In November, December, we participated in the cattle call parade, which took a lot of strength and faith to know that we were going to be safe, that we were going to be supported walking down Main Street in our own hometown. And it's the only parade we have opted to participate in up to now until our trial for our son is over, and then after that, perhaps expand out to the parades at other cities. But we have a Dia de los Muertos and Christmas softball tournament. That's us at the cattle call parade, walking down Main Street. This is our activity that we did with the partnership with Brawley Chamber. We hosted a kids zone for Dia de los Muertos. We had several activities, and so we were able to do Dia de la Familia along with an activity for the kids to get involved in, which is the focal point of our organization. This is our Dia de los Muertos Halloween softball, where we dress up and we have fun rules to make things interesting and have the kids participate, in volunteering, and seeing that after you are a professional and you work, you can still have some fun, because these were grown adults getting dressed up and having some fun. On our toy drive, we also had a partnership with the Imperial County Lowrider Council, and we donated toys to CASA, the Court-Appointed Special Advocates Foster Care Program in El Centro. The reason that I am here is because I'm going to continue the partnership that we have, and we want the rest of the cities to join and support what we do, partner up with us, and do as much as they can to do prevention. Many of the things that we are doing now is just to put a Band-Aid over what has happened and to just take care of the wrong things that are happening, but we need to do more about the prevention part. We need to take a proactive approach to the youth getting involved by getting involved with organizations. I think that sometimes we go to these functions, but we need to be more active in talking to our youth and bringing in more leadership, which is something that we do. Volunteer at family events geared towards prevention, such as MAG games. We also help the Elks out and participate in Kiwanis events to give the kids an opportunity to see how other professionals and other organizations serve the community, not just MAG. And so we lend support to other organizations. And what we're hoping is the cities and the city councils will also do the same. We create youth, we want to create more youth for the older youth. I'm sorry to run on there, it's English teacher, but there's a lot of activities at the recreation departments for younger generations, and once the kids are teens, the activities kind of thin out. And what I'm hoping is that we can team up and do more for the older generation, the teens, because that's a crucial area. I'm in junior high teacher, and this is an area where we see a lot of the parents let go of the kids. And what we want is to hopefully integrate some more programs that will reach out to the teens. So we want to engage parents in the gang affiliation education. We're hoping to team up with the police departments in doing that. So why should we build it? You don't want to have to attend another funeral for a young man like our son. You don't want to see another empty chair or attend a countywide candlelight vigil. Prevention is what we're asking for us to do. And together we can do it by supporting the upcoming events. We have MAD Games coming up March 28th, and this week last week we were told by IBC that they would host it there, and we're going to be working with AG to absorb the cost of it. MAD Coalition won't have to absorb most of the costs. We also have a sneaker ball, which we attended last year. We're hoping to also have it April 18th, which kicks off the Victims' Rights Week. And also an ongoing project that we're hoping to evolve is the 173 Imperial County Mural Project. It's in process, it's in 7 cities. We're hoping to give that to you next after we do the sneaker ball. And so we want to just not overwhelm you with 3 different invitations, but we want you to kind of put that on the calendar in the back of your heads when you see it come before you on the agenda. I want to thank everyone for their time and appreciate the support that you have already given, and we hope that you have time to give, either volunteer, be there, be a participant, engage with the youth, even sponsor, or have a booth there for the city. That's it. Thank you. I hope I made it under 4 minutes.
No, you were actually on the agenda, so you had plenty of time. Thank you.
Oh, it's told it was 4 minutes.
Well, Ms. Garza, Mr. Garza, thank you very much for coming out here and providing that information for council. I know that we've participated in the past, and I can speak for myself, but I think I speak for many of us here that will continue to do that. So thank you for coming out here and sharing your story with us. Are there any other comments from council?
Yeah, I'm sorry, can't wait. Just make sure to keep us individually as well on the list. So I know that when Yulil needs something, she gets after it, and she gets it done. But please don't stop doing that, because you guys are just an incredible couple for what you've endured and what you've turned around and done. So thank you.
And we know you put in a lot of man hours and a lot of giving towards these students, especially when I see that you're giving them their jackets. I know that that is very costly, and being on the school board for 12 years, not too many people understand how hard it is for parents to be able to purchase things like that, especially for kids that probably will never get them if it wasn't for people like you. So thank you.
I have participated in your events, and I know many of us have, so we continue to support the activities of that nature. And I see you at Hacienda, so I see you on a regular basis. So.
Pastor made a point during his invocation about the invisible hand. I believe that that invisible hand touched my heart, and my husband's heart, and that of our county when this happened. But to be honest, we need more visible now. We need to do more to prevent this violence. I should be in my bed, curled up in a fetal position, but instead I'm fighting back. And I hope that our community will join us And I wanted this be the first council that I come before going to the rest in doing this presentation. The school boards that we're scheduled to be at, because you guys are our home. And I didn't want to put it over your heads, and I want you to receive the first formal invitation. And I'm hoping to continue to work together.
Thank you again.
So appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. Garza, we've always said this family.
Thank you for coming. We all are.
Thank you again. Thank you for the information. We plan on supporting you, so thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda. We'll let them. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 3, consent agenda. Items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may request consent items be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as written there?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to the next item on the agenda. Item 4, regular business. 4A, review and potential action regarding the award of a contract to DDL Traffic Inc. for project number 2015-09, purchase, removal, installation of radar driver feedback signs in the amount of $46,150.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council members, President Arellano, Public Works Director. I'm here tonight to present this project. This project was advertised for bids during the month of January of this year. This project intends to replace 9 radar driver feedback signs at existing locations throughout schools. Our projected budget for this project was $51,000, and the only bid came in the amount of $46,150.
With a 10% contingency, bringing it to $50,765?
Yes, sir, if needed.
Right. Is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
I second.
There's a motion to approve, there's a second. Any discussion? Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is 4B, discussion potential action regarding the request to sell and consume alcohol. I believe this item has been, is no longer needed.
Correct. The event is still planned for this Friday from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., but alcohol sale and consumption will not be a part of the activities.
Appreciate that. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. It's 4C, discussion potential action regarding strategic priorities for fiscal year 2015-16 budget process.
Mayor Nava and the council, I do have a presentation to provide to you that's an update. If you wish to pause at any time in the presentation, there's about a dozen slides. We do have some printed copies for the public if anybody's interested in those. And I'll go ahead and get started. So as you may recall, our strategic planning process is the kickoff for the budget year of 2015-16. And so the intent of today's meeting is to try to get some vision from the council in terms of goals for the next year, the types of projects you want to see go forward, the priorities from a policy point of view that are most significant to council and are part of building a consensus so that we have clear direction from council as a whole. These are the most important items moving forward to consider as various workshops follow and we have the opportunity to present content for the general fund and various enterprise funds. The end goal is to maximize the resources that we have available, be highly productive staff that deliver projects to you and to the public that serve local needs, and also do our very best to minimize risk associated with our services. So Last year we spent a lot of time talking about the city's current mission, and what I'd like to do is just take a moment to review what our mission statement is on the books, and that is, it is the mission of the City of Brawley to provide excellent municipal services, to seize every opportunity to empower Brawley citizens, and assure their ability to participate and to guide the growth and development of the city. It's also to develop and maintain a safe environment with the highest quality and most attractive public facilities, to provide an atmosphere that encourages and supports the expansion of economic opportunity for all, to maximize public resources in a responsible manner that benefits the entire community, to empower the city's employees in order to create opportunity for their growth, well-being, and excellent performance, and to recognize that Brawley citizens are a family whose richness of diversity is to be cultivated, capitalized on, and celebrated by all. So the reason to go to the effort of reading it is simply to kind of frame the discussion tonight. We're operating as an agency with this mission in mind, and we hope any projects that we pursue in the future fit inside of this mission statement, and we can live up to the expectations of our agency's mission and our commitment to serve the public. So what I thought might be useful, and please tell me if you'd like to go another direction in the presentation. We have a lot of data that we've compiled, a lot of information. Last year, there were 4 clear areas defined by the council, as well as an overall statement about areas that you'd like to have maintained in terms of their service levels. So the first area was, generally speaking, financial stability, and a great deal of effort has been undertaken in recent years to move forward with the budget and an approach to our finances that we can sustain over time, that's responsible and reflects operational revenues matching operational expenditures. And for the most part, the council has led a very aggressive campaign to rein in expenses, and we've been very effective at a city in implementing those goals of living within our means. The second area of priority was business attraction and retention, and this continues to be a theme of great importance to the city. We're really excited to show you kind of a recap of all the businesses that we were able to identify in this current fiscal year. I think we've made some exciting progress, and Brawley clearly is demonstrating that we're open for business, and we're excited to kind of take advantage of those opportunities. There were several subsets under the business attraction and retention priority, and I won't go through all of those, but you will note that there are topics that continue to be of importance to the council: a desire to have the city organized in a way that's business friendly, to focus on the downtown, to look at where our sales tax generation is originating, and to look at ways to best market the city's potential, to put our best foot forward. Our number 3 goal is reliable water, sewer, and stormwater infrastructure. And as part of last year's discussion, we had some very large projects that were set to go forward with outside funding, and that was the manhole rehab project that's in the design phase right now, funded at the $1.5 million level by CDBG, and our sewer lift stations project, which was completed this year, that was funded by NAPIC. Our 4th area is clean and attractive city, and while we all recognize we can always do more, there's lots of potential to improve our city. There were very specific directives that were given relative to how to accomplish this, and the areas of interest were in the downtown, looking at potential facade improvement opportunities, having graffiti abatement, be mindful of color matching, which hasn't always been our greatest outcome. Looking at a landscaping project, there was a small-scale beautification project that the city council supported moving forward that's in our downtown that we hope to deliver before the end of this fiscal year. And the development and implementation of our Main Street banners. And we did have a series that we were able to breathe life into thanks to Sarah Steimel and her senior project and the support of the Veterans Committee. Lastly, one area I would just want to take a moment to point out that there were 3 areas that were very clearly stated as these are a given. There is an absolute expectation on the part of the council that they are going to continue to be front and center, and those are decent streets, public safety, and appropriate ordinance updates. And we have a lot of work to do on all of these areas. I mean, I think we have a great number of projects to pursue in the future, but in these areas we're doing our very best to always remember decent streets are of critical importance to local residents, and as we pursue our LTA funded projects, this is a manner in which we can deliver on this commitment to decent streets, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of slides. So with each of these, what I've tried to do is frame what we've done to accomplish your priorities in this fiscal year to date. So that's July 1, 2014 to present. We've had very, very conservative estimates that were developed, and last year compared to this year, we had a very different reality. We had a closure of a major commercial customer, which was National Beef. It had impacts throughout our city, including on the water fund, the wastewater fund, and the utility user tax, which is a great contributor to our general fund. So we tried our best to be sure our approach was very measured in this fiscal year, and for the most part have maintained very tight fiscal controls with your assistance. Budget adjustments come through the council when we exceed department expenditures in advance of those expenditures, and we're doing everything we can to gather best information in advance before expenditures are incurred. I want to also just touch on that topic that comes up every budget year, and that is the status of our utility users tax. This is Measure K that is extended into 2018. We are facing an expiration of that utility user tax, and when we look at our general fund, the utility user tax is the second largest contributor to our general fund alongside sales tax. A very, very important part of our $16 million general fund. It represents, approximately $2 million. So want to again put that in front and center because we're looking for direction from the council on what the future of that is. If we have a dramatic change in 2018 with expiration, we'd like to begin scaling back in some fashion to not have a massive decrease in service levels come 2018.
And just to interrupt you just a second, so we all have an understanding Measure K is bringing in about $2 million a year?
It's 1.9. I'll note that last year, in light of the unusual circumstances we faced with the National Beef closure, it was the direction of the city to maintain our service levels on a public safety front as presented. And in order to do that, we looked to the available funds that were out there. And you may recall that PD, unlike many of our departments, has the opportunity to utilize special funds for law enforcement purposes. They're not guaranteed funds every year. They are often applied for or part of asset forfeiture related activities. And what we aim to do this fiscal year that we're currently in is maintain our public safety staffing levels, but do that utilizing one-time money. And that sum was approximately $200,000 last year. So we know going into this next budget year, we need to have a fix for the $200K that backfilled that amount. It is also noted in per council action that we confronted the realities of the Affordable Care Act this year, and as part of our obligations to meet the requirements of the Affordable Care Act, I had a budget adjustment that came to the council for approximately $123,000. That only represents the 6-month implementation period that began with January 1 and ends June 30. But we know going forward we have those expenses to account for in next budget year as well, and the realities of what that's going to mean to our city. Primarily that we had to adjust the insurance benefit, the medical insurance benefit provided to our staff because the premiums had become so great that the requirement of the city for coverage was less than what the legislation required. So this is what it cost to implement it, along with some bargaining unit impacts associated with Teamsters, which if there was a change in medical insurance, we had a requirement to provide the same adjustment that was provided to other units as part of the CalPERS changes for the first year of the bargaining unit agreements. And if I need to recap on that at all, I'm happy to do that, but I think most of you will remember. Also under financial stability, we have this known situation that we're going to be confronting in the city where the cost of operating our systems from a water plant, wastewater plant, distribution system to collection system, all those fronts, we're going to exceed the dollars coming in as revenue to operate those systems in the not so distant future. And preliminary findings have been provided to the council on that topic, and we've been given some very important direction. But we know financial stability depends on those projections and being sure that we're doing our job to call to our decision makers' attention when we have some changes on the horizon that require address. Okay, the second area of priority, business attraction and retention, and I'll just be very brief. There's an incredible list of new and expanding businesses on this list. All of them are familiar, I hope, to every one of you. We have, as we began to compile the list, it was fascinating to me how many of them are in the downtown area. It's many of them. There are also many that are along the Highway 86 corridor. And there are only 2 parcels within our city limits that have heavy industrial zoning. One of them is 5 Crowns, and it's exciting to see that they had an expansion that was part of this last year's activities as well. We also have new and expanding support services, and I just wanted to take a moment to highlight for you what those look like. We have 3 ongoing Clinicas projects right now in our city limits. Number 1 is an expansion on 900 Main Street, as well as a significant parking lot project on G Street that abuts Clinicas on Main. We also have the Dollar Tree Shopping Center, the strip mall. There's going to be a health center that is constructed within that little shopping center. We also have number 3, a third location yet to be publicly disclosed, but is generally speaking in Southwest Brawley. So we have some significant expansion of healthcare going on in our city limits, and I heard tonight also about a medical office building, which is we refer to as the Legion Medical Office Building here in our new and expanding businesses, but a lot going on in the healthcare industry locally. We also have 2 behavioral health centers. One has already been through the complete permitting process. That one is at the former Sun Community Federal Credit Union location. The second is a subject of a development review committee meeting here in the next 30 days, and that has to do with an expansion of the type of services that are offered at in the vicinity of the one-stop center here on Main Street at the railroad tracks. So we have a lot of expanded support services that are coming into our city limits, and we hope that means our local population can access the services they need. We also have a website project currently underway. We're in that first stage of its rollout, looking forward to many other features coming online. And it fell under this topic because our goal is to use that website to market to the outside world, not only our internal customers within community, but businesses that may wish to site here in the future. And then lastly, we saw the birth and life of our Business Advisory Committee, and that has been formed. We actually have a meeting later this month, and they have jumped in with both feet on several topics that are items that have come to the council and will continue to come to the council with their input. Okay, so priority 3 is reliable water, sewer, and stormwater. I won't go through all of the projects that have been completed, but I will share with you, we've got members of the public that have participated in some of them, and we're really excited to have more underway.
I think we've all participated in creating sewer and Brawley.
Okay, one thing that I want to share with you is a lot of these have a design phase. There's a planning phase, a design phase, a construction phase, and sometimes they span multiple years. So we have a number of projects that we have scheduled for completion between March 3rd today and June 30. A lot of them are up on this list. We've got the manhole rehab project ready to go to bid this fiscal year. We've got that Main Street water line project that's in design phase, along with several other critical elements. They're on that highest priority list for water and sewer replacement. We have a project that actually spans multiple departments. And divisions. Step screens, equipment shades, and covers. That's for some work, the shade area that's to be built where our mechanics are at the Public Works Yard, as well as shade that was blown to pieces at the Lions Center that once protected the mechanical improvements there. So those are going out to bid as a package. We have catch basins that are on tonight's agenda, and we have a biosolid study tied to our wastewater treatment plant, and several other projects in various preliminary stages, and you're going to see them on our rollover list. The address of illuminated crosswalks that are non-functioning and of great concern to our school partners, and a striping project that has been awarded, and we'll start seeing some of that work get delivered here shortly. Clean and attractive city. This is probably the most exciting work of all the work that we've had an opportunity to pursue. What I'd love to do is, I know the pictures speak for themselves, so I'll let them stand as is, and note to our partners in the room, the Chamber, Downtown Merchants, and NOCA. Many of these projects have been leveraged with resources from other parties, and because of that we were able to accomplish a great deal and get some buy-in from our downtown businesses. So that part's really exciting, and I always admire that our plants are still alive. It's a sign that people actually care about, they've adopted them, they're willing to keep them going, and we hope there's more of them to come. We have successfully partnered with the Halfway House here in Brawley. We refer to this group as the Downtown Detail Crew, and they collaborate with our Parks and Rec staff and work primarily in the downtown corridor. You may recall that the intention of this group, we were hoping for a 5-day-a-week commitment with a focus on 1st to 8th Street, E to G. In reality, we've ended up with a 1 to 3 day commitment, but great ability to maintain our transit station, which, as a new investment in the downtown with a lot of concerns associated with its initial placement, we've been able to maintain it as an attractive hub in downtown, and those folks have also been very heavy participants in all of the maintenance activities on the plaza. So we've been able to take advantage of their extra hands. Yes.
Are we talking about the gentleman who they said they didn't have a vehicle for these people, or not? That's somebody else?
No, these are folks that are part of the working alternative site at E and 8th Street.
Yes, that's who I'm talking about. At one point, they had said they needed a vehicle, or they didn't have a vehicle to be able to travel to a certain part of the city to help. But if it was something close, then,
Well, we have plenty of work in the downtown, so what we're trying to do is keep downtown clean. The topic of transportation has also come up with some of the inmates tied to our county jail facility. So I apologize, that's what I thought your reference was transportation for those folks. So what's interesting about the Downtown Detail Crew is that we're able to secure their participation often by providing a hot meal. A special meal from a local restaurant, which is Johnny's. It's the preferred venue. So we get the benefit of a lot of hands when we're very short-staffed from a Parks and Rec maintenance point of view, and we're really happy to get their support support moving forward. It's a very positive set of activities for them, and we're in active dialogue with Working Alternatives. How can we structure it better to get even more commitment, because it is a voluntary act on the part of the participants. We are experiencing some difficulties when it comes to the peak of ag activities, because they do have the opportunity to go out and do ag work and get paid. So that part of it, we're working out some of the kinks, but look forward to continuing next year. We have an active rehab in process at the former Brawley Billiards site. If you haven't driven the rear parking lot on E Street in the last week, they just did a new finish on a top layer on that parking lot that is a very attractive improvement. And we are anticipating in the near future a lot more public awareness of those activities coming online.
Are they doing the expense for that, or for the city?
It's their project. It's a private project. And the adult day out currently exists on 8th Street. They aim to relocate folks over to this new address. We also have the former A-Plus Furniture site. A demo permit has been pulled for it. We are hoping for a March demolition, and we'll keep you advised as that information is available. We'll also note that at our western entry to town, we had some big changes in the last year with the cleanup and final occupancy of Motel 6. Our western kind of approach is a far more attractive and clean picture than what it was a couple of years ago. Los Amigos, unfortunately, that former Los Amigos site did experience a fire. We've had about 50% of the structures on premises removed. Asbestos was encountered. So we are expecting, once all of their hurdles are cleared, for that second portion, so that'd be the westernmost set of structures, that property will be entirely cleared. So it really changes kind of the set of possibilities for that entrance to town. We're excited to see that come to fruition. And then just a last couple of notes. We've had aggressive address of all this deferred tree trimming. The mayor made mention of the man lift that we acquired, which was a huge boost to Parks and Rec and Public Works activities, because we were no longer constrained by the rental, the budget line item for equipment rental. We actually have a piece of equipment that we can use to do endless tree trimming, and there's a lot of trees in Brawley that need our attention. So we're really excited with regard to the impact we've had on the plaza, and have many other areas of the city to come. And then lastly, just a quick note on our Brawley Downtown Arts District. We have our Cattle Call mural that went up with the help of NOCA, and we have a wonderful public art piece and beautification project that's planned for the parkway between the transit station and the Rock. We are really excited to have the concept come to the council before it proceeds. And based on the dimensions of the public art piece, our intent is to build around desert landscaping that is a complement to the landscaping that's at the transit station. And we've got a commitment from the new owner of the property where the Rock is located that they are willing to take on the expense of regular irrigation. So we're happy to have them as a partner on board, and really looking forward to that installation as well as many future activities involving the Downtown Arts District. Okay, I'm going to go through real quick on the givens. We have gone through a very active year with PD. Lots of challenges from the point of view of local crime statistics that are really a challenge for us in terms of ensuring the safety of our community. We have moved forward with important vehicle replacement, and there's probably more of this to come that'll be put before the council for consideration as these units acquire more than 100,000 miles on them. So we've had vehicle replacement, a redo of our records management space, which is just a remarkable transformation. And the completion of some final security enhancements that were a part of the EOC's work in the limited rehab of the police department.
How many vehicles did we replace?
I believe it was 6.
Yeah, for the emergency vehicles, it was 6.
total,
So some are marked and some are unmarked. The van was in that mix for transport, which will be colored black and white, like our police vehicles. That is, will soon be here on premises. We've got the motorcycle. We've got 4 of these utility vehicles, the Ford Interceptors, and then a couple of other unmarked cars coming. Okay, and then on the streets front, we have phase 10 of our streets projects, and these are all the segments that are being taken in this fiscal year. You're going to see these before the end of this year. They are near complete in their design. You are aware that we have completed priority 1 of the La Paloma subdivision enhancements, which is taking all those streets and bringing them up to grade. And priority 2, which is half-width improvements to Eastern Avenue, that's coming. And that's a bit more complicated project, but again, look forward to establishing that secondary access in the event that an emergency occurs and we can't gain entry from the other entry.
I drove through La Paloma and that looked really good for what's happening with the streets, but are we planning on doing something with the main entrance? Is that going to be something we're looking at in the near future?
Yes, and I know that there are temporary improvements that are part of that entrance currently, but it is the developer's obligation to actually, it's not a city-led. So in the future, we are in continuous dialogue with one of the owners in that area, which is Mr. Dobron. And this project, kind of like what we're experiencing at Latigo Ranch and some of our other larger subdivisions, when the conditions were originally written, they were written as though the whole project was moving forward. They weren't necessarily timed in a phasing that makes sense with today's economic realities. So you're going to see many of these items come to the council because of modifications to conditions due to timing.
So that the west entrance is total the developer's responsibility.
Can I answer something? Yes, right now phase 2 involves the main access for La Paloma through Eastern Avenue. We're working with Imperial Irrigation District on the Oakley Canal. Imperial Irrigation District owns that right of way and the canal, so they are designing and they will construct the pipeline. It is our understanding that IID will be completed this fiscal year. We are completed with our design through JBL for the installation of a 30-foot wide street connecting to Mainland that goes, by looking at that map, that goes from Mainland to the first street, which is Calle de Valenzuela. So the residents living in the red marked streets are going to be able to enter through Colimbo Street, which is right now the only connection that they have on Mainland, and they will be able to enter the subdivision to Eastern Avenue.
Does that answer your question, Doc? Yes. Okay. I was hearing, you were referring to Western, I was hearing Eastern. I got it.
Yeah, the west end of the project.
Got it.
Because that part has to be underground. But the IID has committed to doing that underground work.
Right.
Of the canal.
Right, the city submitted an application and the city will pay out of the settlement process.
The bond
proceeds. Right.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Logan.
And again, all these street segments are noted in red, and looking forward to seeing Palm Avenue in the mix. The northern and southern half are contemplated in the same way that Eastern Avenue was addressed. The funding for the southern half will be federal funding, so it'll follow after October 1st with the federal fiscal year.
So it's Palm Avenue and Palm Drive?
Yes.
They're both in need of repair.
Badly.
You know, that's going to be very nice when that happens. But when you have a long street like that you go in there and make real good and smooth, and people tend to speed and it causes issues. We need to do the street,
but there's a lot of children that go along that are being dropped off in that street, so that's why it's used a lot. Caltrans uses that street.
They will
it's a long stretch, so we're
with a lot of stop signs.
We'll have to have some police presence.
So the third area that was described as a given last year are ordinance updates. There are 2 items that are coming to you at the next meeting. Those are the peddler's licenses as well as sidewalk sales. Once we have a final consultation with the chamber on some of that language, we'll have that item prepared for you. And then this is just a quick recap of all the other actions that came before the council in the form of ordinance updates.
We have a list of the 4-way stops, or is those already up?
The council took action in October of 2014.
Right.
They were the ones, for instance, on Trail and Western, and also near Brawley Christian Academy. And
so they're all done?
They're all done, all installed.
Do we have plans for more? Do you know of?
Not that I know of. It's generated by traffic safety concerns that come forward, not so much budget, more that whether or not the conditions warrant the installation of the stop signs.
Thank you.
Okay, so rollover projects, if we assume this year's projects that aren't complete or are in the early stages, these are all the rollovers. We've got phase 11, which is the next LTA phase. We've got our fire apparatus that is near ready for bid, but it takes a whole year to construct that or to assemble the vehicle. We have the manhole rehab project. We have our customer service initiative that we aim to fully implement. We've got La Paloma Phase 2 for Eastern Avenue, the Alice A. Giroux Park renovation that is very near complete in its design, but we're waiting on our legislative requests regarding some augmented funding. We've got the transient occupancy tax audit that we had planned to do this year, but it is looking more realistically like it's going next year. And we have critical water and sewer line replacement projects. That's again Main Street and those other critical areas. We have some work at the water plant, the sedimentation basin repair work, the pond liner rehab. We have the stormwater management program development and the Missouri Park restrooms. That particular topic's become pretty challenging in that our initial intent was a cinder block construction of a facility that could be easily hosed and withstand the test of time. We've got the same exact set of facilities at many of our parks, and it's a solid form that has withstood the test of time. It appears that in order to, we had originally intended to accomplish that with the help of Imperial Valley, Brawley Union High School District's IVROP students. But as it was fully explored, they're more of a fit for the stick-built construction than they are for a cinder block construction. And the stick-built option has a lot more vulnerability than the cinder block. So we're looking at any number of options, still continuously exploring with our high school district and looking for private parties that might wish to step forward as well. So there'll be more information to follow. Clearly there's a need. We've had remarkable private investment in the park. And we've partnered with these outside donors to do really, really great work there. Clearly needs restroom facilities. You know, there's no place to go there. So
that information that you gave me, I turned over to Mr. Garcia. I really think they're going to help us with it. I hope that happens. I had a visit with him, and he's really big on parks.
Especially now.
Okay, so 2015-16 seems like a far ways off, but it's here. July 1 will be here before we know it. Ruby, while our finance director has already prepared her worksheets for the kickoff of our budget discussions department by department, so I thought it might be helpful for you to know what direction I gave her. And that direction was, assume we're moving forward with year 3 of 4 for our Fire Station 2 staffing. That was a plan put in place when Fire Station 2 was established. We've been using reserves to backfill the staffing of that, call paid firefighters. So trying to move forward with that plan. We've got year 2 of 15 for the water to wastewater fund repayment plan. And we've got a desire to upgrade a vacated admin secretary spot. So she has moved forward with assumptions for the budget that reflect a different pay range than admin secretary. I have had requests. I want to make sure I capture them, and if there's more, want to know what those are. That's kind of where what we're hoping for today. I've heard interest from council on wellness incentives for staff, generally speaking, and that's kind of part of the weight challenge that came to the council. We do have some constraints within CalPERS in that it's not structured in a way for wellness, which maybe is a statement in and of itself, but that doesn't mean that the city can't offer incentives to employees that are separate and apart from the CalPERS medical plan. So I want to be sure I capture that. Want to also note that Ivy Desert Museum, it was requested that a potential contribution be put into the discussion, so want to be sure I fairly capture it there. There's been a desire for permanent staffing of graffiti abatement, and some of that has to do with the quality of having a real painter do the work. It makes all the difference in the world with regard to the visual product. Some preliminary suggestions for your consideration. We've got the airport water storage tank rehabilitation that was taken out of commission. Council was provided an update a couple months ago. If we were to ever land another large customer, this particular water storage location is really important. It's a large project, so just for our future economic development potential, want to make sure I highlight it. Hoping to move forward with those absolute critical water and wastewater projects. So these are based on where we have the majority of ruptures, etc., where our cast iron pipe, most aged facilities are located. We know our pool plaster, last year we had a fix in the small pool and the large pool. We've got a very large six-figure number associated with that pool, and I don't think any of us are happy at the thought of a pool closure if it's this year or next year or any year. So that's definitely out there and part of our request into our state senator as well.
Especially because our school children use it.
We have many institutional partners that have the benefit of that pool as well as the public at large. We have a need to demonstrate good faith on ADA improvements, and we had some small projects that we pursued this fiscal year. One of them's here at the police station, and others at the library. They're just improvements to the doors, so that you can, if a person that's wheelchair bound comes to the door, they have a button to push to gain access. And what we do is try to identify financially attainable projects that are in high traffic areas. So. Looking forward to some good faith ADA efforts. We have future vehicle retirement and replacement, and we'll always do our best to make sure when there are other funds available other than the general fund that we're utilizing those resources where the funding is flexible.
Do we have a price on, or anything close, or any idea on what the Lion Center pool plaster would cost, or what?
We were in the vicinity of $200,000 plus mechanical improvements, and I'd be happy to recirculate to council the legislative request. We combined Alice Giroux Park augmentation funding with the pool plaster project. We have generally, I want to encourage staff to submit projects for consideration that enhance productivity and efficiency. These could be IT upgrades, these could be phone system upgrades, any number of projects that have benefit to the public we serve and the work we perform in order to provide those services. And then the last item, this will be an item that comes to you at a not so distant date. We do have an obligation that we will be facing relative to the airport property, specifically the water storage tank that's out there occupying a portion of it, as well as the fire station. We have been informed by FAA that we have an obligation to pay lease for those properties, and our intention is to bring an item to you so you see it on a going forward basis, a looking forward basis, not a looking backwards, but a looking forward. So those are very likely general fund, not on the water tank side because we could potentially use the water enterprise fund, but we know that's having some challenges. But on the fire station, it's general fund. So want to make sure you're thinking about that or aware that is a challenge for us going forward. In Ruby's very preliminary rough numbers, we are starting this fiscal year with known increases if there are merits in effect or any other obligations of our bargaining agreements. Those are built into the budget. We are short, starting our budget process, about $335,000. So this is about where we were last year at this time. It's part of our fine tuning, and we hope that today's direction from the council helps us to better understand where is the council with the existing priorities that were stated last year. Are there new priorities? Do you have suggestions on how we proceed? Because our thought, and I will always present you a balanced budget unless you're willing to do something different. But
I think you've done a very good job in recapping the things that we worked on last year, and really there's a long list of things that have been accomplished. So existing priorities will continue to be that because we're working on them and they're longer term projects. One item that I would like to introduce is something that we've talked about recently and we approved was a delay in collecting for impact fees. That's something that we've discussed. How do we, because what you've described here is a lot of expense. There's a lot of expense in what we have to take care of. We're not a business to where we're developers ourselves, but we certainly have forms of revenue generation, that's sales tax and other things. Considering that we do have Measure K expiring or sunsetting in a few years, we need to look at to see how we can help spur development in the city, whether that's residential growth, commercial growth, certainly. But I know recently we've delayed collection of impact fees on a development, and that, in my opinion, can have a tremendous benefit to commercial activity. So I would like to propose that to the council for future discussion, but that could significantly help a developer in not having to forego or letting go of possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars and investing that in their development, and we can delay collecting it. I wouldn't forego collecting the impact fee, but just delay receiving it maybe at the time when the certificate of occupancy is issued. So
I totally agree with the mayor on that. And basically what that does is it frees that developer up from paying those fees at the time that they pull the permit until occupancy takes place. So I think that would be something we really should look at.
And that would be for all development, commercial development, whether that's residential, but certainly we're starting to see more business come in, and if that can help spur what we're doing within the city and we can market that effectively, I think that would be important for us. So that's just food for thought for this council.
Yeah, and just along those lines, if there's, maybe this is the forum for us to do it, what else can we do? I mean, these are either process changes, these are enhancements perhaps that create a little bit of an incentive. And I think looking at this, I think it was well outlined, Rosanna, and really appreciate how that was presented, because this was a great summary of really the hard work that we did really together as staff and council. Last year's strategy, now it's really it's getting a little bit more focused. I don't know that our priorities will change, just my personal opinion. I think financial stability, I really think we're hitting the right categories that we want to stay focused on. I think at the very end was some of the givens, but in the order of future things we can do for business attraction, as the mayor just mentioned, that would be one fantastic example. Next question would be, what else can we do? It's not just that. At what time fees can be paid? How can we get creative to really set our city apart, to really make it truly competitive, to want to move forward? I think we're doing our part largely as a community by creating some of the attractiveness, by doing what we can with very little. That's the other thing I'd like to state publicly, is so much of this was done, and it was not at the expense of millions of dollars that you would expect. In many cases, this is really done on a shoestring, and largely utilizing the staff that we have that have gone out and focused on these priorities. So what can we continue to do?
Even like the beautification, for example, we showed the lift up there, but that was a priority for council in years past and for staff, and so now we're starting to see at least the beautification aspect taking place. So hopefully that's an attraction to residents and to business development. But good question. What else can we do?
One thing, I'm talking to other fellow councilmen outside of the valley, one of their projects that they did was the city had several acres of land, and what they did was, and it might sound crazy, but in the end it worked out. What they did was give the land, they offered the land to these businesses, and in turn the city gave them about 20 years to pay for it. But in the meantime, in the 20 years, they developed a big business. We got more people that were able to get jobs, they said, or they got more people to get jobs. It brought in the economic, it raised it. They had people coming into town, making money for our restaurants, for our motels, and so that was a couple of the things that they went out and did, offered land to businesses, big businesses, and that brought in a lot of revenue. So that's something maybe to think about. I don't know, if we have that, we can do that, but there's other things that we sat down and we talked about, and it's really one of the other things I have to bring up, and hopefully nobody takes this idea, but they said, you have the sand dunes, Helen. You should get together with BLM, have like some kind of a race out there, sand buggy race, dirt bike races. You have those, you bring, and I was going to sit with Jason to give him those ideas, because I have they gave me 8 great ideas. Anyway, so that's one of the things they said, have this, work with BLM, you can make money, the city can make money because people are running through here, again, they're using the motels, they're using our stores, our grocery stores to come through and to be able to stay here. Kind of, and make it an annual fiesta of some sort, the Brawley BLM sand dunes races, and make that, start off small, but then as you go, because we have thousands of people that go out to Glamis. So, charging for the races, to get in. So that's another thing they brought up. I mean, it was really nice to be able to sit with these people that are from outside of our county, having these ideas brought forward. They also said, you have the cattle call, yes, but you need to bring other kinds, like a fiesta, like the mariachi festival. We know that your southern people have mariachi, but they said, I remember we used to come to Brawley, and that mariachi festival brought people from all over, not just from your county, but different counties, just like they said Palm Springs and Balm Desert, up in that area where they have the tamale festival. You need to start thinking something new, bringing these kids. Then they brought up the idea about the arts. Now you're starting with the arts. You need to bring the students in with your art. They had this contest on where the people from the metal place out there where they just, people just give their metal away or their cars, and have the students come up with ideas, have them make different kinds of artifacts from this metal, where you can put it in different places of the city, down in the cattle call, these kids will get into it. And even, he said, even your street game, they are so artistic. You can't believe what they can come up with. And have like a contest, first place 1,000, second place 500, third place 250. It will attract these youngsters to do something good for the city. So those are a few of the things that were brought up to me, and I thought I'd share today. And I have other ideas too.
I don't know if it might be of interest to the council to hear the latest on the 8th and G location, and then some of the exploration. What spurred the thought is, the city historically has explored options for the former water plant. There is a feasibility study that was conducted, and we've tried to put that on the table when we have various developers looking to site things in Brawley. Mm-hmm. We know that EPA is actually very much interested in a project in our city limits, and one of the things that we've tried in the past is to package the former water plant and the demolition and cleanup of that site. What they have stated to us in formal comments is we need to have a private partner that is part of delivering a project in occupancy. So it's not just cleanup, but has a back end benefit with jobs associated and economic benefit. We continuously, and the reason I bring up 8th and G is because as part of some of the inquiries with our state legislator, we have a request that's gone forward for demolition of the structure. And the 8th and G location is one of those that we actually have an opportunity to obtain ownership if we wish to have it through a process that's provided through the County of Imperial that has to do with it going to auction. And that property has gone to auction with no takers. We have currently an active discussion underway with Calvet regarding that site. We also had active discussions running with Imperial County Sheriff's Office for a potential facility at that location. We've got Wakefield Housing Development Corporation also looking at that location. So we're hoping if there's enough inquiries, they're looking for that site plus other parcels that are either vacant or have other potential.
Let me ask you something. I know we've been opposed to taking ownership of the property in the past, but what if we were to take ownership? How delayed would the action be if before we would have to initiate cleanup? In other words, if we didn't find grant opportunities to be able to cover the expense, when would we need to do that, do you know?
I think it's a question of whether or not the council wishes to perform the cleanup. We know that the state of the property as it currently stands, at one time we had an opportunity to use supplemental environmental funds if there was contamination associated with the site. Unfortunately, or fortunately, there is nothing other than it being terribly unsightly and an attractive nuisance. There are no immediate threats other than just visual assault. I think Chapter 8 has been part of every discussion. The Chapter 8 process has been part of every discussion with the Housing Development Corporation as well as Calvet.
But just an overall community impact that it has, economic benefit that we can utilize if it's some sort of benefit to the community, I think we can make that argument. So I haven't necessarily been open to the suggestion of owning that building in the past, but maybe that's something that we can do.
When we had an RDA, we had an awesome vehicle.
Right.
I think what the council would have to decide is if you didn't have a partner lined up, ready to go, that there was a purpose for us to be the in-between, to have that process where we become owner and then turn it over to a private player. That we'd want to have a plan for address of it because, like any public facility we own, there definitely is an expectation that the agency's going to do something about it.
Or a joint use facility between the county and the city of Brawley. I mean, it could be one of many things.
When you put it up for auction, excuse me, Mayor, but when they put it up for auction, is there a certain amount that you have to bid? And what was that?
There are 3 liens on the property. There's a business tax, a property tax, and the city's lien for the limited demo performed. In order to acquire it, they only had to pay the balance due at the time for the property tax and the business tax. It was less than $20,000.
Wow.
But I think the fear is the cleanup obligation.
How much is the estimated cleanup?
All we have at this point are figures that were collected at a time when we declared an emergency and we did not have to go through typical procurement, a typical public bidding process.
If we own it, then we're going to have to go through the public bidding process and prevailing wage and all of that.
Right. So
what's
at the
your rough
time,
estimate?
the limited demo was 60. The higher end of the total demo was in the range of 165 or something in that ballpark.
Sure, 165 now with prevailing wage and everything else.
Well, since then we've performed an asbestos report.
Right.
We've got other elements that could make it.
I think that's important to consider, and we do need to consider it, but for the purpose of the planning workshop, I think we do need to focus on things that we have control over now. And so, great question with respect to what else are we going to do to help spur development or spur revenue for the city. Is there any other comments from council with respect to that topic?
There is one other vacant parcel that we do own. We have put it up for sale before with no interest. It's on Ulloa and B.
Right.
across from Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
With the, you just mentioned the joint.
I believe it's important for us to go forward and look at all our options for extending the road from Walmart into Dogwood and then on into 111 or the bypass. I think that's a long-range project. It's probably not something that we do all at once, but I think that needs to be a priority every year for us to look at that as an option, because I believe that that will stimulate additional sales tax revenue for the city of Brawley, but also provide a corridor for people to come into Brawley from another direction that they don't really have currently. I think that we're getting a lot of people some people from the south end are coming up, but I think that with that corridor, I think we would have an increased rate of people coming in, and also we would have more maybe of the bypass traffic, that the sanding people that we may be missing, that may be stopping in India, or they might come on into Brawley if they have an easy access, and that's an easier access. And so I think that's got to be one of the parts that we kind of keep in the back of our mind. I do believe that it's something that we have to be very careful about, and we're probably not the ones that are going to put the primary cost for that. And usually it's been on kind of the shoulders of the developers. But I think we've got to look at that, because I think we do need to push that road to Dogwood, regardless of what happens, and then on into the bypass. I know it's a long-range project, but it's probably a 5-year project, but it's something that we need to look at.
I agree. That's why and I've thought about the things that we can do to help spur development, whether that's residential growth or commercial growth. And this item that came before us recently with respect to the impact fees being collected later, I know there's potentially some risk in that, but I certainly think that there's tremendous benefit in that as well. So I'd like to explore at least that topic further, maybe not today, but I wanted to put that out before council for consideration, and maybe we can get some real figures on the dollar amounts that were collected, and gain some input from maybe some developers that are out here as well. So.
I also talked to some developers today, and they're kind of questioning about maybe like a Argo gas station of some sort, and also a restaurant along that way. I asked them to call you because maybe there's some potential acres out there that some farmers or someone wants to sell, just to start a little bit of business along that highway. So just something food for thought.
Mr. Brown, I love your idea of delaying. The only thing that I have a concern with on the delay in collecting development impact fees is the same thing I brought up at the other meeting. They need to be held accountable for those fees, regardless whether the property changes hands, regardless of what goes on within their development. Somebody has to be held accountable for those fees. And as long as the agreements that we develop address that concern, I don't have a problem with delaying the development of fees. But I do think that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed very strongly, because that's where the real risk lies, I believe.
Absolutely.
Because they develop the project, they get to a point where they're ready for occupancy, they sell the project, and then the other buyer doesn't pay those development fees, and I think that can be a problem.
I think we cleared that up, though.
Well, I hope that we
that's
agree
part
with that.
So I understand the direction, though. It's not looking at it on a case-by-case basis. It's more of a program.
Right.
Yeah,
I'd like for that to just be the way we do business.
Absolutely, I agree.
Rosanna, I mentioned process. That's the other thing. I think a developer or a business or a retailer or anybody that we're trying to attract, I know if I were a business person, and I've, just the businesses I've started, things like this would be a great incentive. The other thing, though, is it's responsiveness, it's efficiency, all the things that actually some of them were outlined up there. So we need to continue to work on that in a tangible way. Maybe something that can be articulated back at council. Here's how we're improving this process. I know with some of the commissions and committees I've sat on, kind of the fragmented nature or sort of disjointed nature sometimes of doing business here in Brawley. Go to this office, pay this fee. And many times what's known to all of us, just because you're involved in day-to-day of city business, may not be known by a new business person coming that right. You need this permit, you need this license, you need to pay this fee, you need to fill out this application. So we just have to figure a way that we can just do business better. And I don't think that's going to take a tremendous investment or some big budget item on our part. It's just changing philosophically how we do business. Right. And we've talked about this. We talked about this last year, but it's just, how can we now start really putting a plan to it that we can point at, that's measurable, attainable, that's going to yield results? Because and I would like to turn around and, we mentioned focus groups of the developers, anyone we talk to, we can say, look, here's what we can do, and here's how we can somewhat call it fast track or whatever, get a project from start to finish.
Yes.
And get a shovel in the ground or whatever.
This is where you go, this is where you talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that we have, I know it's come before us so many times, and that's, smaller businesses that are locating in maybe older commercial sites where they don't have a commercial water meter and they don't have a backflow preventer. That's an additional expense. It's about $2,000 that they're having to pay up. Why do we need $2,000 right then and there? Why can't we spread that payment out over time, let them pay it over time? They have 12 months or whatever it is that we design it for. But that's just another item that we can look at to make ourselves a little bit more business friendly.
So instead of them, right now the developer installs it at their expense,
right.
Instead the city installs it and we charge back?
It could be that.
Their utility.
It could be, right, it could be that, and it could be just paid over time. It's just things that, and I know we're working on trying to see if we can finance commercial metering throughout the city, but that is a longer term plan. It's not going to happen in the next 12 months. But these are things that we can do now. So that, to me, is important.
But I think that also with a commercial, I think we need to start, we need to have a date that we're going to start that. And also give them that opportunity where they can make payments on it,
right.
12 months. Because we're prolonging it, and I think that we really need to start doing something.
Sure.
About that. And I think that if we give them, like you said, the business friendly, and give them a time frame and say, you know what, we're going to allow you to make payments on it. We're not going to take a whole time.
Right.
So it's options versus no options. Menu versus no menu.
And it goes back to even the $200 deposit or near $200 deposit for water service to residential customers. It doesn't seem like a lot, but when you consider a small business setting up, maybe the $2,000 are used for their grand opening party and they're attracting people out. It could be for anything. But it's money that is really in use instead of being tied up in a deposit or paying for a meter, And so, same thing with impact fees. I mean, we have some developers here right now, and you have a larger project, and let's say your fees are $150,000 or $200,000. Well, if you could apply that to your project and develop that, why wouldn't you? And if you can really essentially finance part of your project for a while, and then pay it later. So I'm hoping that spurs the conversation a little bit within council. But I really do think, I don't think it's going to solve all our problems, but I would like to see it applied to help spur business down here.
And I think that in the long run, we'll get it all back.
Right.
Absolutely.
We've had some conversation on Wildcat, on the panel. We talked about that. And I really think that will spur things in that area because I think some of the conferences that George and Donnie attended, some of the investors, they mentioned that specifically about that traffic.
I feel a little bit different now than when discussions originally were occurring with that abutting developer. Something to think about for your future. Latigo Ranch will be coming to you guys for direction. But I'll share with you that since the initial dialogue, we're talking 18 months ago, we have continued to build our streets impact fund. So the balance that's there after Pano is a different balance than when we were sitting down to talk with McMillan. We know that it's very, very costly to do those improvements out there because there's IID infrastructure that's got to be underground, and there's a lot of structures to work with out there. Whether it's enough to get the construction built, because if I recall our balance correctly, it's in the realm of $600,000, and our last discussions were in the realm of $250,000 to offset the expense. Could $600,000 make a difference? Obviously, that's a project-specific comment, but it's in that vein of what are the things that we could offer to a project to get it off of stop and on to go, and aside from just waiving a condition.
Absolutely.
I'm going to touch on just real quick Main Street because we, or the downtown core. We've had a couple of recent, obviously, projects over this last fiscal year that have broke ground and happening, and including that are open, like Inferno. we have to take some of our learnings as a city on how those projects went, so we don't go back and kind of repeat some of the frustrations and challenges that were experienced. So if we know going into a project like that, we have a prospective business that wants to take basically an empty, dilapidated, old building and bring it up to specifications that are not only today's code, but on top of that, really become an attractive part of the city. It's a matter of how can we present that ahead of time? It really comes from the outset. This project, you're going to be challenged with this, and this. At least a business person, if they know that up front, they can plan accordingly or make kind of the go or no-go decision. I mean, sometimes there's nothing worse than a business person that's already too far into their project and realizing they bit off more than they can chew. Because at the end of the day, failed businesses are not going to help us. And that's why one of the things, I think it was frustrating for us as a council, because we're confronting, and I think staff, no question. I mean, it's frustrating for staff, I think, at the end of the day. So what can we learn from that? We have community foundation right now that's obviously engaged with the theater. So these are projects, what can we learn from? Because to me, it's the same buildings, if we go up and down Main Street, that if we want to hopefully attract and put businesses in some of those old areas, is there a playbook? Is there a process now that we can now hand over and say, hey, these were the challenges, expect X, Y, and Z?
And it has been, I know, terribly frustrating for Inferno, for their development, for city staff, for us as council members. I know it's been an experience for us. And there's a lot of money invested, and if we want to see it develop, playbook, that sort of thing, I think is very important. So we know, and they know what to expect.
And not only that, to add to that, we expected them to have something nice. They expected to give us something nice, which they are. I think we need to continue that the whole Main Street. I think we need to tell the rest of the businesses, you've got to start bringing up your way of doing business, the way you look inside your business. We can't have people walking into a beautiful Inferno and then go 2-3 doors down, and the other ones are not suitable to what, they need to maintain their stores. They need to maintain the way our Main Street is looking. Because if you walk down that Main Street, we've got stores right now that, they need a lot of sprucing up. Sure. And we want it all to look exactly the same. If we expect one Inferno to look nice, I personally expect everybody else to at least come up to standards, where we're not right now. And we need, whether it be ordinance, something needs to be done about that.
And there is things that we are working on. The Brawley Beautification Initiative, that's not only just painting, but also the downtown, the facade improvements and things like that. So it does look so much better.
Inside their stores.
Right.
When people walk, when people come to visit, because eventually when we get this art going, that people from all over, I don't mean just the valley, I mean all over the world are going to be coming in, because that's how good and how great our arts is going to be. I assure you. So when they walk into other stores and they see what they have, I'm sorry, it's going to be very not so well.
My thought, again, I just want to make sure you understood what I was saying. So the direction I'm kind of trying to share is, let's make sure we do a good debrief and capture what we learned and ideas, so we can pass that on, hopefully to the next project. We kind of keep pressing forward. That next project needs to go smoother, maybe, or the challenges are known up front. And I think we've got momentum. That's the idea. We want to keep going. So definitely, I just want to make sure that was clear. Just kind of getting that. So I don't know if we want to. I want to make sure that you hit all these categories. Do we need to probably? You guys think that this is workshop format? So kind of ditching almost a little bit of the formality, so we can kind of speak up a little bit on. I think the financial stability issues. I believe, staff, you're looking for some direction on how we want to move forward going into budget, right? And there's some issues there that I personally think are they're concerning, because we want to move forward and do these things, but it just comes down to the same thing, it's cost. If we know we're going to be at a $330,000 potential deficit going in, all things being equal, that means either we're cutting or we're not providing certain services. So it's maybe just we could get some discussion around
more
that.
concerned to me that if we're going in with the 2018 with less than with $1.9 million off the budget, I think we need to be aware that we're gonna trim stuff. We're not gonna do everything we're talking about doing right now. If we have to go in at $1.9 million a year, cut the budget, then I think we've got a problem.
We might need to cut close to $500,000 a year.
And it's true, we can't predict the future. We cannot, we don't know what's going to happen. We do have control over certain things currently. That's why I think it's very important that we focus on the things that we do have control over, and that is our impact fees, what we can do to help spur development, I think is important. You brought up a good point with respect to Wildcat. I think that's essential. Lower impact, or excuse me, the fact that impact fees may not be collected initially may spur development, and that triggers the road being constructed later. We don't know that. We can't predict the future. But as far as Measure K, I don't know if we can affect that change just yet. That's my own opinion. We're looking at a budget year, 2015, 2016. I'm not sure if we address that just yet. Because it's hard to say what's going to happen with National Beef property, and if anybody else is going to purchase that and develop it. I'm not sure. We don't know that. I know it's been worked on, but there isn't a suitable buyer just yet, at least that we know of.
It all depends on what all comes in. Maybe before 2018, we can go back and look at Measure K and maybe go back to the public with a reduced rate of what that utility tax is. I mean, that's something we may have to look at.
And we do have a better understanding today of our sales tax than we did previously. And I think the report that we receive is very good. It's concise, it's short, gives us a good understanding of where our money's coming from. So we continue that, and with respect to reducing costs, it gets difficult because we want to maintain the same level of service for everybody. But I know sometimes that's not.
And my thought was just because it mentions our public safety there. I hope, I think, everybody here is on the same page. I personally wouldn't want to see a reduction in our obviously our public safety resources and services being provided. So right off the get-go, we need to figure out at the same time what suffers. Where does it come from? I don't know that revenues are going to come up quick enough to address this going into the next fiscal year.
Right.
So I can only imagine this means one thing: it's going to be cutting. We don't have to make those decisions tonight. I'm just, it's strategy-wise, do we scale back on maybe some of the capital expenditures that we were really looking at? I hate saying this, I want to see the lighting project, for example, but do we trim a phase and hold off on one phase, maybe do only one phase of it, as...
I think the limitation of approaching it that way, capital projects are one-time monies.
Right.
So actually, and one of the conversations I've been having with staff is, please bring solid capital projects forward. They're not hard to accomplish from the point of view of revenues because it's one time. What's difficult is the ongoing operational expenses associated with our manpower, because that's 80+% of our budget.
Right, if we're adding additional positions, I mean, that's going to be forever, and it's...
I understand that, but there's a CapEx bucket regardless of what those projects are. So what I mean is as a whole. So I'm not saying don't bring projects forward, but at some point you have to look at your different buckets of money in order to kind of, on an annual basis, balance our budget. So I just wanted to kind of, in strategy, just maybe let's set some objectives. Like I personally, again, feel that we really need to stick to where we're at with our police and fire department funding.
And I think our community needs to understand that. They need to know where we're at and where we're going and what our goals are and why we need to continue the K, continue the projects that, yes, we're taking, a few cents every month or a few dollars, from them. But they have to understand, it probably most likely will not end in 2018 because we're going to need it. We need to continue. But let's start letting them know now. Let's start letting them know why. Because I can assure you, at this point, they're not going to want for us to get rid of people from our PD or lower any of our safety, fire department, or anything like that. And I think that if the public knows and they're told ahead of time, this is how it has to be, you know, and I think they'll be okay with it.
You know, I think eventually the utility tax is gonna have to go away. This council did a really good job holding several workshops last year, well, not last year, last go, when we did the utility tax, educating people and showing them, if this is reduced, this is what's going to happen, and people understand that. And if you guys remember, it barely passed. I mean, it barely passed. I think it was 51% or something.
But again, I think that people are not aware. It's just like the voting. You know, there's people that go out and vote and there's people that don't, but because they don't understand. But I think that if we get more word out, you know, like the ACC, the Hidalgo Society, having meetings outside of here, like Mayor once said, you know, we're having the town hall. I think that's one place right there that he can explain, or someone can explain about what our projects are.
What we're really going to have to do is go out there and work our butts off and try to attract business, and people actually see that, look, you know, council and staff they've went the extra to try to take care of business. People recognize that. People, I mean, they realize what you've done all you can do. And I think if we do that and we go to them with a really reduced utility tax because we came up with some more revenue, I think people are willing to go with that.
Rosanna, considering what you've heard here tonight, you know, we have our goals from 2014, 2015, accomplished some, we're still working on others. Considering what you've heard from council and some of the input that we've all expressed, we're looking at a $335,000 shortfall. Can you model some, if you get with finance and with the departments, can you model some things for us to see what that would look like if we had reductions in various areas and present it back to council to see what we could consider in maybe reducing or eliminating for the coming fiscal period?
Give us some options.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing everything that you're saying relative to kind of looking at ways to spur development and develop programs that hopefully grow that other part of the balance sheet.
The other part of the balance sheet, meaning the revenue generating.
Absolutely.
That TOT, we need to really look at that, and I think we need to move on that. That's something that you don't want to take advantage of people that's traveling through your city, but that's something that normally your local folks don't pay.
I pay a lot of TOT tax.
Right? Yeah. when we travel and go to other cities, you look at that.
Right, absolutely.
So those are the things we need to put in place.
It's also a good sign, I mentioned it the other day, that hotels, you know, Motel 6 is sold out.
Yeah.
And so lower cost, but it's still, you know, people are filling the room, so that's also a good sign that things are happening within the city and the region. So
you want to be reasonable with it. I think we need to look at those kind of things.
So if that would be the direction that I would propose, if you could get with the finance department and other department heads to see where we can, if you could model some things where we can make up the $335,000 shortfall, considering the items that we brought forth today.
So Mayor, it is a little big thing, but I'll take ownership, so I'm remiss, but I'll still put it out there publicly. I'd still like to revisit our mission statement. I think that was the original one that we looked at back from the early 90s. So
yeah, this is.
I kind of mentioned I take responsibility for that a year ago. It hasn't happened. I'll say that. We've had other things, but I think if we can pare that down into a decent sentence or maybe two sentences that really encapsulates who we are, where we're going, and what our mission is. So if you don't mind, just a note to hold me to that, and we'll work together.
He'll give you a couple of days. That's all he has.
I think you do have direction now. Are we all in favor of that direction?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there any other comments? Thank you. We're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, that's departmental reports. 5A, Shirley Bonias, Personnel and Risk Administrator, monthly staffing report.
Good afternoon, good evening, isn't it? Shirley Bonias, Personnel and Risk Management, Mayor, council members. On page 58 of your agenda packet, it reflects a lot of effort going on right now. Right now we have Parks and Rec has an opening as a worker that we're working through the apps, forming the interview panel. I anticipate a placement, not by the end of March, beginning of April. And then Public Works has had a little bit of shuffle going on. Our lab analyst moved over to water treatment plant operator 3, so now the water plant is fully staffed. Just opened up an in-house posting for the lab analyst.
And that took us a year to fill, so.
We have a prospect. We think we have an internal worker that has the credentials, at least a grade 1. So we're hoping that application comes forward. We had a promotion from utility worker 1 to parks maintenance lead man. So we have an opening in the Public Works Department again as a utility worker 1, and that is open to the public. Not on your paper is a part-time position at library, a supervisory clerk. Got a full-time position somewhere else, and our supervisory clerk is part-time. So we are now recruiting for a part-time position at the library. Any questions on your report?
Any questions from council? Thank you for your report.
Thank you, sir.
Next item on the agenda is departmental reports. 5B, Francisco Soto, building official, director of building permits.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. It's mostly an informational report. You'll find it on page 59 of your agenda, and if you have any questions on a particular project, I will try to answer them for you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I see that the list is growing. That's a good sign.
Yes, it is. 2 pages this time.
Next item on the agenda, thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is departmental reports. 5C, Pat Dorsey, Parks and Rec Director, Reserve Park, William Presley Field.
Good evening. Just a little information. I know you've all seen our new ballpark. You have? I am very proud of it. When we first started, we did the west side, and I always wanted it complete. To do the whole thing and be proud of what we have going on. Well, I am. Our community is so great. The guys that did the west side, a few of them got together and said, hey, let's do this other side. So they did, and it's the same few that are out there volunteering in different sites, and we have Mr. Abadi, Mr. Presley, and Rusty Garcia as the go-between. And there's a few others that they would not like to be named, but we are so proud to have that field complete. We'll have the name up probably by next week. It will be called Bill Presley. That's Bob Presley's dad, and everyone knows him that went to school at Brawley Union High School, or Barbara Worth, I believe it was. That was way, long time ago, yes. But anyway, it's a beautiful field. If you haven't seen it, go by and see the field. We'll get the grass green now that the water's back on, and it's something to be proud of.
Nice improvement. Thank you for that report. Next item on the agenda is item 6, City Council member reports, and we'll start with Council Member Noriega.
Well, I was able to go to the State of the City in Imperial with Mayor Mark Grant. And I have to say, he's not only a mayor, but he's also a comedian. He had a great show. He was dressed up, of course, as his cowboy with I called it a girly scarf. It was nice to be in a different atmosphere. It was at the theater, at the, what's it called?
Movie theater.
Movie theater. Anyway, and it was a theater. And I, of course, had to leave a little early. I'm not sure what all I missed, but the breakfast was great. They were great hostesses to all of us. I believe we were all there at one point or another. And then after that, we had our mayor, one here for Brawley at the Stockmans. And I was glad to see that we had so many people from the community that came to join us and join our mayor and his great speech. We have a working group here, I have to say. We don't always agree, but we agree to disagree. And I have to say that it's getting so much better, even though it's all mostly men. But we have 3 women, 4, 5, 6. So even though they might not be on the board at any time, but as council men and women, I want to thank you guys for making me part of your group. I know we, again, had our disagreements, but that's okay. In a marriage, you always have lots of disagreements, so I feel that we're married here, and we are going to get bigger and better in the next year or so. And I want to congratulate you guys for being such sportsmanship. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your report, Councilmember Noriega. Councilmember Couchman.
I'm sure my wife would be concerned if I'm married to
Right.
She knows you are.
Sam only kisses me every now and then.
Thanks. I chaired the overall Economic Development Commission meeting on February 23rd. We talked a little bit about retail sales, but mainly we had some presentations by EDC, and so that took a long time. So we didn't really get into the retail sales area too much. We also changed officers, so I no longer have to chair the OEDC meeting. Now that rests with Imperial. And so we'll see where that goes from there. We're working on, I think, SEDS and then that retail survey that they're doing. So we'll be coming back with some information on that in the future. I also attended the Chamber Mixer in Westmoreland, at the motel in Westmoreland, Best Value Inn. If you've ever been over there to see their indoor pool, that is a fascinating location. I've never been in there before. So I didn't know that they had an indoor pool. So that was kind of interesting. We also had an aerial photographer there that does aerial photography around the valley. Some really neat pictures of some of the solar projects and other terrain within the valley, and some really neat pictures. And so if you get a chance to see those, that's kind of a real nice chamber mixer. My kudos to the chamber and setting all that up, and Atul Kumar and all those people. And the town talk for the food. Okay, I attended the NRA banquet, National Rifle Association banquet on February the 20th. That went very well. It was at the old University Schoolhouse.
Did you win anything?
No, I did not. My son did win a revolver. I won something at Desert Wildlife, so I won a rifle. So, but we do win occasionally, but not all the time. It was a good event. Well attended. I also attended the Mayor's Breakfast, Brawley State of the City. Very nicely attended function and well put on by the Stockmans and everybody, and I know city staff had a big part in that. So that was a really great thing. I don't know if I reported on this before about the work party that we had out at Rotary Park, but we did paint all the benches out at Rotary Park several weeks ago. Rotary sponsors that. We had some great help from the Police Explorers. I think we had 9 individuals out there from the Police Explorers, and we also had 4 Interact students from the Brawley High School, which is a high school organization that's sponsored by Rotary, and so they were all out there to help us. So naturally, I got to oversee the project and didn't have to do any work, which is always a great thing when you're out there painting. I didn't get a drop of paint on myself. It was really great. Now the kids got some paint on themselves, but we did the whole work benches. We did all the benches out there, so we painted them all with the help of the city of Brawley, which provided the paint. And we also had help from the Shanks and some other people that provided some of the equipment and stuff. And Ron Garcia was very, very instrumental in getting that done. And we had help from the elementary school personnel. And so we got all those benches painted. That preserves those benches, and it makes it a really nice area for people to picnic, and we know it's well used. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Councilmember Couchman. Councilmember Campbell.
Maybe we can get you a spray gun.
There you go.
We like doing it with roller.
Maybe the permanent position in the city for graffiti abatement.
We had a spray gun, there's no telling what we might do.
Before I mention my items, I want to thank staff and Rosanna for the presentation that you put on this evening for us council members and the public. There was a lot of good information, so thank you guys for that. I also attended the Imperial State address, but I have to say that my mayor and our staff at our breakfast did a fantastic job. So you did a really good job. That was really nice. Some of the items that our city manager mentioned tonight, some of the accomplishments, I mean, it takes a lot of work from a lot of people to make that happen. So those things are really good. I'm headed to SCAG on Thursday, and I know I always mention this, but I look forward to those meetings with different officials from the different cities, and I'm on the transportation committee, so that's going to be nice. But I want to thank staff and everybody for all that they do for our city. It's living in Brawley is really a blessing. We have some people that really do a lot of volunteer work for our kids in different areas, and our Parks and Rec director mentioned our parks, and I have a 10-year-old son that practices over there sometimes. We like those parks are really nice. Jim Abadi and the crew, those guys do a lot of work over there. It really looks good.
Volunteer.
Yeah, it's all volunteers. So. But other than that, I thank everybody for coming out, and I just ask that God continue to bless you guys in the families.
Councilmember Campbell, thank you for your comments. Mayor Pro Tem Morton.
Yes, sir. Airport Commission meeting attended. The only thing I want to mention, just to the council, maybe an item I think might come out in the future, but just an early shot here, and I know our Public Works Director, Ms. Ariano, is here. We're going to shorten our runway. So of all the wonderful things we've done at the airport, if you can imagine, it's kind of to the dismay of most pilots. You always want more runway than less, trust me. It's a good thing, but my understanding, again, it's a Department of Aeronautics Caltrans requirement. Is that correct? Because of obviously the best road proximity.
Yes, sir. It was a finding from the last inspection from the Department of Aeronautics.
So it was a finding, so that's something I'm going to confirm. But other than that, the commissioners obviously continue to. You've heard a lot of airport issues, so. That work continues. I attended the El Centro Regional Medical Center Mardi Gras Foundation event. Again, always good. I do always attend, but it was kind of nice being acknowledged as well as really representing Brawley. So usually I'm there kind of, as a reach guy, but I was actually more recognized as a Brawley guy. So always happy to represent Brawley down south. So it was a great event again, and I think money was raised, and it's always good to interact with those folks down there. And then the last thing, again, I of course attended the State of the City address, and I too just want to commend the mayor on a great address. The content's always there, no doubt, but it's always in the delivery, and I thought it was very well delivered. And I too want to express how proud I was of our city and our council, our staff, and our mayor for that address. In short, also, I want to also kind of echo a little bit of what's been on council. These strategy meetings are great, and I want the public to know, just a few years ago, we didn't do this. But the importance of getting together and having these discussions, the work the staff, you can see right up there is clearly reflected. But I've been 2 years on council, and I want to thank really what I consider my teammates here. I like how Han said that it is, I guess, a little bit, it becomes like family. But I think when you work together for a common goal, which is what this is all about, and we're representing the better interest of our citizens, you can do great work. And this is kind of a lot of the, I hate to say the fluff, the accomplishments, but I think the public ought to know we had a lot of challenges too over this last fiscal year. Some very, very tough issues. We forget about the amount of work that we as a council and the ad hoc committee put into attempting to keep that national beef employer in place. So I want the public to know those things don't change, and hopefully we can keep doing this. And so I look forward to the next fiscal year. I know budget's going to be rough, but again, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Morton.
Before you give your report, I just want to let you guys know that I'll be going to the water education for Latino leaders. It's called that, but it's not just for Latinos. It's anybody who wants to go. And they had a couple of scholarships, and I had told Roseanne to find out if anyone else wanted to go, and I've kind of put it out there for different people also. So I will be gone this coming Thursday and Friday. The city is, the only thing there that I will charge is the gas. Everything else will be taken care of by them. So
fantastic. I know you'll represent us well. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And also, I went to the Sacred Heart Mardi Gras for the Sacred Heart School, and it was very well attended, and Liz Maynard got the 5,000, and I have to say, Mr. Abadi won the 1,500 and the 2,000. So God blesses him. Even he gives it to us, and in return, he's getting that. Yeah. So
thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you all very much for your reports, informative, and I want to thank you all, staff, City Council, the public, for attending the Mayor's Breakfast on Friday morning. Roseanne, I'd like to thank you as well. I worked closely with you on the presentation on drafting the content, and it really highlighted some of the things that we've all worked on in this room over the past 12 months and things that we're going to be working on over the remainder of this year. So I would echo the comment of Mayor Pro Tem Wharton that the strategic planning workshops have been really essential in directing and focusing our efforts. And I think, Rosanna, you've done a really good job with staff, with our department heads and staff, in helping direct our focus and getting those things accomplished that we've wanted to work on. So you've gotten some further direction tonight, and I think that we'll present a balanced budget that we can work with for this coming fiscal period. So I'm excited to see that. But again, thank you all for your support. Thank council. I'm thanking council certainly publicly, but for your support of my efforts and the things that I've done over the years, but especially for being there on Friday. And thank you all the staff. I also participated in IVDC meeting, which took place yesterday, and as Supervisor Kelly alluded to, we met as an Assembly of Governments, and we talked about the letters of support that would be written, and I believe Council's seen some of those letters in our email, so I would like to move forward with that, and I mentioned it briefly at the Mayor's Breakfast, but it's certainly an issue that will impact us all if we don't address it. Also attended the America's Value In event. In fact, I thought there was more Brawley residents there at that chamber mixer than there are when we have them in Brawley. So maybe I don't know what sign that is, but that actually was a really great event. Well, the food was fantastic, but the people were even better. So it was a good time. So I also was able to throw the first pitch at a softball. I used the Meserve Park fields, the softball fields, and it was the first pitch as the mayor for a friendly softball game that was taking place between Las Chabelas Restaurant and their sister company, the Courtroom. And so I believe the Courtroom was and I also did the color commentary, so you can imagine that. So that was a lot of fun, but it's a great use of the field. They enjoyed it, they used it, and I'm glad that took place.
Did your pitch make it?
The pitch made it, but I was standing very close to home plate, so it made it though. Yeah, right. Yeah, let's hope not. But I also met with some developers that are working on various projects, some small, some much larger. Over the course of about a week and a half, I've met with some, and we talked about a lot of things within the city. And so I hope to see some projects come forward. I won't describe them here today, but there's a lot of things that are in the works. And I think this strategic planning workshop is a good step in moving forward economically for us. So again, thank you all very much for your support, and that's my report, and we will move on to the city manager's report.
One item, just want to make you aware with the help of Mayor Pro Tem Wharton, I've got a contact at Helena Chemical, which we've got an individual that works there, Mr. Hutchinson, that's interested in participating in Meserve Park related improvements, and he's agreed to sample the soil conditions out there and assist with applying some treatment to the area to spur proper grass growth, as well as reduce the number of weeds out there. And if this is a relationship that gets off to a strong start, I think it's got a lot of promise for other areas that he has indicated he's definitely interested in stepping forward to assist with. So just want to make you aware that meeting is scheduled for later this week, and the samples have already been pulled, and we're looking forward to the partnership, another private-public partnership. And we hope to be coming to you soon regarding another community member and group of stakeholders that are looking to adopt Jeff Thornton Park. So more information coming soon, and assessments been done by community members on things they'd like to see improved out there, and they're all very, very worthy tasks. They want to have a regular work team and take it on as a community group. So
Fantastic.
Looking forward to those details being presented to you at a future day.
We need sponsors for Jeff Kissy Park and Kelly Park. Those two, right?
Yeah.
Kelly Park's the park next to the fire station. So treasurer's report.
Nothing.
Thank you. City attorney's report.
Yesterday was a big day in court for the city of Brawley. The first thing is unfortunate, but we had to do a vicious dog petition. And thanks to the work of Yasmin and Mr. Martinez, the animal control officer, we were able to convince the court that a certain pit bull on B Street had to be put down. The dog attacked several people, including two students from Barbara Ward. Luckily, no one was hurt very bad, but they were hurt, and so we took care of that. But thanks really goes to Yasmin and her crew, because that was a lot of work, because you have to present the facts. You know, it's easy to write it up, but she had to dig them up for me, so that was taken care of. The other one that's a big deal, and it was in front of the same judge, is the J Street property. We convinced, and it took some arm twisting, we convinced Judge Jones to direct the receiver to sell that property. There are some interested people in it. There's a number of bids out there, and the judge has put a condition on it. Whoever buys it has to put a bond up to make sure that the judge can basically turn to and force a cleanup if it's not done to the court's satisfaction. So that happened on Monday as well. Those orders are on the judge's desk, and as soon as he signs them, I'll get them, and away we go.
Fantastic news.
But it took a I don't know if you know Judge Jones, I'm sure you all do, but he's a great guy, but when he's on the bench, he's as serious as a heart attack, and you have to really convince him to go with it.
Glad you were successful in doing that.
On the bond, did he specify how much? Because I have other people that are also interested in purchasing that. So maybe we could do it for the highest bidder.
Well, that's exactly how it will work.
Oh, good.
Because the way, what he's ordered is that we do it like a probate sale. So whoever gets to the receiver and gets him the highest bid, we will have an actual auction in court, and you can come to court and say, I'll pay more.
Right.
Oh.
So that's how that'll work.
And what's the bond amount?
I think it's going to be up to the judge, but I think it's going to be in the neighborhood of $20,000.
Yeah, 20 grand. Yeah. That's good right there. Fantastic news.
And you will let us know so we can let the people know.
Yes, we'll make it well known, because we want to get as much money as possible so the city's liens can be paid.
Right.
Okay.
Otherwise, the city will take a bath.
Please let us know.
And just so people know, that's the property across from Reserve Park there on J Street.
Yes.
It's not on the corner, but next to.
Right across from William Presley Field.
Right.
Right, that we just talked about. So, well, thank you for that update. The next item on the agenda is City Clerk's report.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Well, I want to thank everybody for attending tonight's meeting. We're going to take a break.
If you don't mind, I recognize Terry getting proud of that. You know, Terry, it's good to see you here, and do you have any comments, or what did you think about the presentation?
Oh, this is great. I really think Roseanne's report was perfect. Really an eye-opener.
A&R does a lot of work in our city.
Absolutely.
I would hate to be going in $325,000 in a hole. I couldn't sit there as calm as y'all did.
So please spread the word and let them know what we're trying to do.
But you're right, the citizens of Brawley will pay more.
Exactly.
Brawley is such a better place to live.
Thank you.
Than other cities. It's one of my employees moved here from Imperial. And he's lived in El Centro and Imperial his whole life. And he came to Brawley, and he's ecstatic. He's a completely different person. He's just...
We're different.
We have an impact.
We're just a little biased here, though. You know, that's why we love it.
That's true. I mean, I've probably won my whole life.
There you go.
And it's,
Mayor, I think you have a wife on it.
I just, I like hearing what you're talking about in the new development in helping businesses. And especially my ears are ringing because I've been talking about putting in a business. I've been talking about putting in, actually a museum with a mini strip mall. And it's been kind of hard to try to find property in Brawley. I had looked at the old Los Amigos. But of course, Terry scares me to death because he's saying, oh, Caltrans is going to make you do this, Caltrans is going to make you do that. And I go, well, no. I looked at the property next to Bryce Chapel. Caltrans gonna make you this, Caltrans gonna make you that. And, you know, so
But if you get that road through at Wildcat.
But I mean, you know, this is something that I have plans on. I have had it going for quite several years. But good old Terry scares me to death.
Terry, stop that.
Little does he know A&R exists because I said we got to start our own company. But now that he has this company, now it's like, calm down, honey. Just don't.
Well, I would say this.
Little Caltrans.
If there's anything that we can do for you, and we mean that, and I mean that in all sincerity, we certainly will try and accommodate. You heard what I said about development impact fees being delayed, and if that can help your project move forward, we'd be happy to see that.
But it's still coming.
It is.
Well, yeah.
It is, but it's still not an upfront. You know, it's still not an upfront cost.
I like Mr. Wharton's a plan where this is what all it's going to cost.
Yes.
That's right up front.
That's a super idea. Because I you know, I'm bad. I paint a picture of doom and gloom to her, you know, and but it's true.
Yeah,
and you need to know all those costs, and that would be so good.
And honestly, we started in this together from the bottom up on A&R Construction, and in the year 2003, I had 4 massive heart attacks, so I haven't worked so much in the construction part anymore. But I got to move on. That's what I told them. I said, look, I ain't getting younger. I'm moving on. If you want to keep that, I'm going on something else. And so this is very important to me. Like I've been looking, like I said, I look at the Las Amigas property, and it says it's still in business with this. And I'm going, what? I was showing Terry on the deal of showing that it's what was it, some sort of oval comb or something, I don't know. And
It's owned by Volunteers of America.
And it's actually showing pictures of a nice room and everything that's available. I'm going, okay, Terry, now, I remember going swimming at the Las Amigas as a kid. And I go, I know where this place is, and I'm going, are they collecting state and federal funds for this little program they got going on? And I go, you keep telling me Caltrans is going to make me put in.
If you go on the website, you're going to go, what? It never happens.
And so that's why I'm going, I go, well, who do you even call? I mean, you know. And so it's like, I'm going, okay, this place is being condemned, it's been burned, and said, there's no way this is, I'm going like, who do you even call to even get started on that? You know?
Talk to Roseanne.
Yeah, we can get you contact
City manager, absolutely, but anything we can offer, you know, our city manager, tremendous resource, we have great staff, and if anything, reach out to us individually. We're here to try and help. You know, I work closely with council members, Mayor Pro Tem Wharton, we work on a lot of different things. I come from the private business sector, and so I have a pretty good understanding of how small business works and the impacts within the city. So, and council member Mayor Pro Tem Wharton does as well. So, and of course, all of council, we're all interested in seeing things develop and be successful. So, if we can be of assistance, please let us know. But thank you very much.
You've got a great staff.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I have enjoyed this.
Thank you. Come again.
So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back into closed session. But again, thank you all very much.